All right, and here we go, back with another episode of the Uncivilized Art podcast. I'm your host, Bundy Hazan, but I go by Bandit Haze in the online space. And today, joined once again by my man, Sweet Bundy. Big up to you, sir. Appreciate you, sir. How is you, sir? So it
Doing
feels a
good.
bit weird
I'm just
saying
hanging
how
in
is.
there.
Yeah, it actually feels a bit weird saying how is you because we talked before we start recording, so I don't really know how you doing. But I don't know. It feels like you're supposed to say that because, like, I don't know if you don't say it when you're recording, it feels weird. But then I'm saying it and it kind of feels weird because we already talked about how you're doing and how I'm doing. I don't know. It's one of these weird things, I guess. But you're doing good, so that's all right.
Yeah, it's for the people.
Yeah, it's for the people, then for sure, for sure. But yeah, we're going to talk mostly about the game industry layoffs that have been happening over the past maybe almost a year. I mean, there's been game layoffs for many years, of course, but there's certainly some big ones over the past year-ish or so that's been happening. Like thousands and thousands of people have lost their jobs. In the last year, even just since January, like Microsoft, bloody hell, man. So we're
hmm
going to be talking about all that, what we think of it, if we think, what we think, if we think anything can be done about it and that kind of stuff. So that's the main part of the podcast. But before we get into that, Mr. Bundy, what you been doing? What you been playing? What you been watching? If indeed anything at all, what's a going in Sweet Bundy's world?
I've been watching House of Dragons. I'm not caught up all the way as of this
All
recording.
right, the Game of
I will
Thrones
be
spinoff,
after
right?
that. Yeah,
Oh yeah, yeah.
it's pretty damn good. It, you know, it's more of a prequel, right? But it's with the way how Game of Thrones ended with the last two couple of seasons or so. That was terrible. It was awful, god awful. The actors knew it, the writers knew it, everybody involved knew that was just awful. So with this, you're getting back to what Game of Thrones was, right? The good writing, the the good acting, everything involved. And don't get me wrong, there wasn't bad acting in the last couple of seasons. It's just that if you tell an actor who's been used to working with some high quality, right, or a certain standard, and you're telling them, all right, here's this piece of shit, and I work with it, they're gonna try their best, but at the same time, you can see that part of their soul is dying
Mm.
as they're going ahead and being forced to act out this bullshit. Um, so yeah, House of Dragons, pretty damn good. Season two. Um, what else have I done? Oh yeah, I finished The Boys. I've been watching this animation of called, and I'm late to it, so I'm still in season one. Vox Machina. Pretty good. It's
All right.
like a comedy um based on like RPGs and everything. So those medieval RPG games that you know about,
Yeah.
like Baldur's Gate, for example. It's like an animation based on that with some raunchy comedy here and there. Um, pretty good, pretty good. Uh, oh yeah, and of course, the best part, I've seen Deadpool and Wolverine.
Oh, okay. Okay, I've not seen that yet. Or fine. I think I need
Yeah,
to see it soon though, because I've already seen so many spoilers of it.
yeah,
So
that's why I had to drag
I need to
myself to
see
the
it soon.
damn.
Like, I mean, to be fair, I think the spoilers that I've seen, I can still probably enjoy the movie anyway. But yeah, just some things that maybe would have been a surprise. It's not going to be a surprise for me, and then that kind of sucks. But yeah, I do still want to see it. I've been hearing some good things about it, so yeah, I do still want to see it. And apparently, I don't think this is a spoiler to say, but apparently there's some important implications for the MCU in that film. So that'd be interesting to see as well, to see what's going on with that. But yeah, yeah, it's on the list.
I
But
mean,
what do you think of it though, is in terms of like good, bad, non-spoilery stuff? What do you think of it?
I loved it. I I can't give it a 5 out of 5, and for the life of me, I don't know why. Um, but it is definitely, I would say, a 4.5. I know that 4.5, 5 out of 5 doesn't seem like a big difference, but a 5 out of 5 for me personally is when you get this feeling of like, holy shit,
Mm,
yes, exactly. Like there you go. That's how the fuck you make a movie. I didn't get that feeling, and I don't know. It's like bothering me because I loved the movie. Like I loved it from the moment it started. I loved that movie. I was never bored at any of the parts. I never felt like, all right, let's move on. And I'm very impatient. So even with some of my favorite movies, I have those feelings. So I was wondering, okay, I didn't feel any of that during this movie. I was hooked the moment it started. Why is it being held back? Why can't I give it a 5 out of 5? Why don't I have that feeling? Am I dead inside? And like
I
I
mean,
just
it's possible.
right? I mean, the older you get, sometimes for some people, but I feel like um maybe it's because I got one spoiler beforehand and I
Mm,
didn't get to fully experience it, and that's why I fucking hate spoilers. People get too excited and they want to tell everybody about it, but it's like, listen, just let people experience it for themselves because you take away that moment forever. You can't replicate that.
mm,
And what I mean by that is like if X, Y, and Z happens, and then you decide, okay, this is so surprising. Oh my God, let me tell somebody, and that's gonna get them to go to see the movie faster. No, it may, but now you just ruined that moment for them.
mm.
You know, and that could have been that moment right there that was, would have pushed me over the edge. But now, once I got that spoiler, the entire time while watching the movie, I'm just waiting and waiting. And then when it finally came to that moment where it's like, oh yeah, it's gonna happen here, it happened. I'm like, oh, you
Yeah,
know,
that's the thing. That's the thing, isn't it? It's like you can still enjoy a movie with even though you know what's going to happen, but when that thing happens, especially when it's something that you know would have been like an amazing like moment, you know, and or just a really pivotal moment, but because it was spoiled for you, like you say, you're anticipating it, and you can somewhat predict where it's going to happen just based on everything else that's happening. And yeah, you'd rather not because you'd rather not have to do that because it kind of happens naturally when you know something's going to happen that you kind of end up predicting and you're like, okay, cool. It's still cool, but it's like it would have
hmm
been that much more had you not known or even thought to try and anticipate it, you know. So yeah, spoilers
yeah,
suck.
yeah. So, but I still love the movie. I'm gonna see it multiple times. Yeah, and it didn't feel like people were worried about the fact that now it's going to be is by Disney and all that or whatever. But this trilogy, this last movie, it didn't feel like a watered down version of Deadpool. It was definitely better than Deadpool 2, and yeah, it was good. It was very good. Um, it felt like it was part of the trilogy. It didn't feel like honestly watching it. It was as if Disney, Marvel, they said, do whatever you gotta do. Just don't do this, this, and this. And they took it as far as they could.
Mm.
And not once did I feel like, oh shit, there you go, censorship or nope, nope. They went all out. It was exactly what you would expect in a Deadpool movie.
Yeah, I think a lot of people underestimate Disney to some degree when it comes to certain things. I mean, don't get me wrong; they've definitely got a few stinkers when it comes to movies under their belt. I'm not going to try and defend everything they do. They've definitely made some
Mhm.
bad choices here and there, but I feel like for the most part, their movies are not crap. You know, like they don't get don't remember they do have crap movies. I ain't saying that, but for the most part, their movies are either really good or they're okay. You know what I mean? Like you very rarely get just a complete trash film from Disney, and or Marvel more specifically, as we're talking about Marvel. So I feel like people kind of underestimate them. They kind of hear the Disney name and think, oh, they're going to do this, they're going to do that, they're going to. And then of course, they know what they're doing when it comes to movies. You know what I mean? Like they've been doing this a long time. They might not always hit the nail square on the head for sure, but I feel like they pretty much know what they're doing when it comes to movies. So like, you're never you're hardly ever going to get crap from them. You might get something okay. You might get something that maybe it could have been better, or maybe they made a few bad choices. But I think you very rarely get just actual garbage from Disney. So yeah, I don't know. That's in my opinion. But other people might disagree with that.
No, I agree. I feel like Disney gets unnecessary hate only because they have a reputation from when we were growing up, and there has been some sellout moments, but that's how they gotta make money, with the Little Mermaid thing and all that. Listen, if it works in their favor, good. The only thing that you should be worried about is if they don't make enough money, which goes into what we're talking about today of what could happen, or if they get too successful over something stupid.
Yeah, so start milking it a bit too much.
Exactly. If they see, like, for example, Toy Story. Toy Story should have ended at Toy Story 3. I don't care what anyone says.
Right? I've not seen Toy Story 4, so let me not say too much about that. But right, the moment they said Toy Story 4, I was like, no, please don't, please don't. 5, oh mate.
Yeah. Because Toy Story 3, it ended perfectly.
Right. It really was. It really was.
Yeah. In college, I actually wrote an essay about symbolism in film, and I chose that film to talk about. And that essay was so good that I had some people in the class crying, including the damn teacher. That shit, yeah. I was like, all right. It wasn't just all me. It was the film. It was the film itself. The film itself was like, yo, yeah, because it went over multiple themes. It was about growing up. It was about moving on. It was about letting go, and all those reoccurring themes. We're pretty much going through that. Especially for my age group. I grew up. When I was a kid, Toy Story 1 came out. When I was getting towards my teenage years, Toy Story 2 came out. Now I'm in college at that time. Toy Story 3 came out. So it was like perfect. It was perfect. And they said, we need more money.
Yeah.
So Toy Story 4 came out. But here's the thing. I would have accepted Toy Story 4 if it wasn't Toy Story 4. And what I mean by that is that somebody made a post one time.
I think I know what you mean, but interesting. Yeah. I'll not let you say it, but I think I know what you mean, because I kind of had a similar thought as well. But yeah, I'll let you say it.
Somebody made a post saying, like, because of the, without spoiling Toy Story 4 for you.
No, it's fine. I probably won't see it. I mean, well, let me not say that. I might watch it eventually, but I don't plan on watching it anytime soon. So if you feel like you need to spoil it, go ahead. Just so anybody watching might hear a spoiler for Toy Story 4. So if you don't want to hear it, I get that, but I don't mind if you want to drop a spoiler or two. It's not going to bother me. Not this one. Not this one. Spoilers suck in general, for sure. This one I'm not too bothered about.
So in short, without going too heavy into it, it's a movie that's focused on Woody, right? Woody was trying to save some toy because they got a new kid owner, and it was that girl. All right. Anyway, they got a new kid owner, and she makes a toy. That toy comes to life. That toy is always trying to kill himself. Like literally trying to kill himself because he can't understand why he's existing. So that, I ain't gonna lie, that was funny. So Woody's trying to save that toy and teach him how to be a toy, and they get separated. So the whole movie is about Woody realizing, okay, I could just stay here. I don't have to go back, and just about him figuring out himself or whatever. Now, somebody made a post saying that that movie should have just been called Woody or something with his name, Woody's Last Ride, whatever the case, and just been focused on that. And then at the end, um, he had he has to just I forgot how it ended. It was so good. It was bittersweet. But in the movie itself, they ended it. I think Woody. I don't remember how Toy Story 4 ended. I think Woody stayed separate from them, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure. But either way, the way this guy who wrote our girl wrote that post, and they said, and it ends like this. It was bittersweet. It wasn't like, oh, Woody dies. Nah, that would be typical. It was something that you could see in a Disney film, and it's believable, but at the same time, kind of heartbreaking, but kind of sweet. And I was like, man, get this guy in the writer's room. Now we got Toy Story 5 coming out, and I don't even know what the fuck that's going to be about. And I'm annoyed. And, it's, I sound like an old man saying that because, it's made for the kids or whatever. But guess what? This started with me, okay? When I was a kid. And you're taking something from my childhood and stretching it and stretching it and stretching it. And you're morphing it into something that it shouldn't be. So I feel like I have a right to say something. I don't have a right to go ahead and say what's gonna happen. Like, I can't tell Disney what to do, but I have a right to complain. I grew up with this. I put my money into this. All right. I bought the action figures and the toys and the games and all that growing up. So I have a right. There you go. There you go, right there.
Blu-ray.
So if I put, I invest into this.
But because I think I think I agree with that because when I heard about a Toy Story 4 coming out, I kind of already decided in my head I'm not going to go see it because like Toy Story 1, 2, and 3 for me was just a perfect trilogy, and no matter how good a movie Toy Story 4 is, and I'm sure it's a good movie, I'm not going to say it's rubbish, I'm sure it's a fine movie or a great movie and all that kind of stuff, but the fact that you've continued that story, it takes away that ending, and that ending was too perfect. The way Toy Story 3 ended from the story, telling the story of and because it's telling kind of the sub story of Andy, like I say about growing up and different phases in his life, and then by the end of it, that last shot of him driving away and stopping to look at the toys as they sit on the porch because he's going to the little girl to play because he's going to college, he's kind of getting old, he's not having time for them no more, so it kind of gives them a whole new lease of life while he gets to go on and live his life. So there was that really good, perfect ending for that whole series. So the moment you say Toy Story 4 we continue with the story, it's like, you're taking away that ending. So no matter how good it was, I was like I say, maybe eventually I'll watch it, but I'm not in no rush to see that film. But the way I was thinking about it is kind of similar to what you said, is that, just don't call it Toy Story 4. Make a spin-off. Like what they did with Buzz Lightyear, something that's, maybe set in the same universe or something connected in some way, but not continuing that story. They could have done something with Woody where, Woody was a toy made from a cartoon series from like the 50s or something. They could have done something like that where that, making that into a series, or, with Woody as the cartoon character that it was based on, I'm just saying, like, there's so many things you could have done that's connected to Toy Story or set in that Toy Story universe. I mean, I get it. Disney like money. We all like money, and Disney like money more than most people. And of course, they have every right to milk their products as much as they want to. We get that. That's the business side of it. But in my opinion, what would have maybe been a better idea in terms of still being able to make money, still being able to keep the Toy Story name, but not taking away that trilogy, like take away the ending of trilogy, is do something connected, but just not a continuation of that story. So don't call it Toy Story 4, maybe, I don't know, Woody's Revenge, I don't know what you would call it, but just something maybe connected, but not a continuation. That's for me, that's the big sticking point. The moment you continue that story, that means it doesn't end there anymore. And the way that ended, it was too good of an ending to not leave it alone. Just leave it. We have an ending, because that's one of the things about films and shows, when they could be great and the ending could be so bad that it ends like it feel like it ruins the whole show. Ruins the whole movie when you have a terrible ending. But when you have when you stick everything, you got the beginning was nailed. You got the continuation of it nailed. You got development nailed. You got the characters nailed. You got the quote. All of that, and then you get the ending, and you nail the ending. Leave it there, please.
Exactly.
I get it, money, temptation, but just leave that as it is. And if you really need to do something, a spin-off or a what Marvel do, sell it in the same universe but in a different part of what I mean. But leave that as it is, please. Let that just be. But yeah, the ending's ruined now. It doesn't matter anymore. That whole everything you felt in that moment when you saw Toy Story 3 and the way it ended, everything you felt does not matter anymore, because that wasn't the end. There's more to it. There was a point. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll eventually see Toy Story 4. Like I said, I'm in no rush to it. I've got Disney Plus, so I don't know. Maybe one day I'm bored, I'll load it up on that. But yeah, might not be for a while. Might not be for a while. But yeah, that's myself then. Let's see. So, I went to see Spirited Away the play a couple of weeks back. Last week was it? Or yeah, a few weeks ago. As time of recording, I was and end of July I went to see it, and that was really good. Really enjoyed it. It's based on the anime Spirited Away by Hayao Miyazaki from 2000, I want to say, was it originally released? But yeah, they made a play based on that, and they've been running it. It's actually ending soon. We're recording this on the 5th of August, and I believe it's ending on the 24th of August, 2024. Hopefully it does get a second run, because it is a really good show, and it'd be cool if more people get a chance to see it. But I guess they want to do this for now, see how it goes, decide whether they can continue, whether it's worth continuing, and all that sort of stuff they have to figure out. But yeah, it's super expensive to buy tickets now. When I bought tickets back in January, so I paid like £25 for the tickets, and I checked again just before I went. I'd see what the tickets are worth, and they were like £100, £200. They're so expensive because it's limited seats and they're ending soon. So it's like it's if you want to go to a play, buy early for sure. But yeah, no, it's really good. The acting was great. It's based on something that I knew I was going to enjoy the story because I already know the story. But yeah, the way they adapted it for the theatre was really good, and everybody involved was just fantastic. So yeah, worth seeing. But bro, if you're trying to see it now, I feel sorry for you. I feel sorry for you. That's just your whole week's paycheck or something. Well, not your whole week's. I mean, hopefully you make more than £100 in a week. it's a lot of money anyway. It's a lot of money. Also just regular stuff as well. Just still playing some cheap games when I get a chance to. Just play a bit of Half-Life today actually before we start recording. Old school game. If you don't know Half-Life, it's from 1998. I've played it a few times in the past, but just playing it again in recent times, kind of working our way bit by bit through it. And yes, watching JoJo's Bizarre Adventure as well. I'm on season 5 of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, which is called Golden Wind. It's the one with Gio Gianna. If for those of you who've watched it, that's the one. I might be getting his name wrong. Giorgio Giano. I might be getting his name wrong, but yeah, that one. Potentially Dio's son. If you've seen, if you've watched JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, you'll know what I mean by that. It's not a spoiler. It's not a spoiler or anything, because that's literally what it say right in when the season starts. But potentially, I don't think they've actually confirmed it. They kind of have, but anyway, it doesn't matter. But I've been watching that, and that's been pretty good so far. I think I'm nearly halfway through that season. And I watched a British show called Supercell by Rapman. I don't know how popular Rapman is outside of the UK, but he's pretty popular over here. He's done a few movies in the past called like Blue Story, which Top Boy.
Isn't that a movie?
Top Boy, the series on Netflix.
Oh no!
Did you watch that?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, Blue Story is kind of like Top Boy. It's a similar sort of concept as Top Boy in that it deals with these sort of British gangs, but it's a movie that came out a few years back. It was a pretty good movie. But he did a series recently for Netflix called Supercell, which has been described as Top Boy meets Misfits. Misfits was another British show from some years back that was on Channel 4 over here. But yeah, I don't know if they showed it outside of UK. I think Misfits was shown outside of UK actually, but I don't know if it was popular outside of UK. I believe it was shown though, but yeah, whether you've seen it or not. But anyway, it was a good show. It was a good series. Supercell was really good. It's basically like you have like these kids from. I get. I don't want to say under. Nah, that's kind of misrepresenting it. You've got a few different kids from slightly different backgrounds, but all in a similar part of London. You know, you got people who are like, I say kids, some of them are like young adults. But they like, you got a guy who's like working, you know, he's got his girlfriend, he's really in love, he's working hard at his job, he has a delivery driver. You got the kid who's, you know, in the gang and, you know, trying to, raise his gang level and you know, and that kind of thing. You've got the guy who's just trying to get he's had some trouble past, but now he's just trying to see his son, but he's having trouble getting a job because he's got a criminal record. You've got the guy who sells weed, you know. So they're all in the similar part of London, but have very different lives. And then all of a sudden, they get superpowers. And it sounds a bit mad when you put it that way. I'm probably not explaining it in any good way, I'm sure. But yeah, watching the show, watching what they did with that, I would say the Top Boy meets Misfits is a pretty accurate description. That being said, it's very different from Top Boy. It's very different from Misfits. It is very much its own show. But yeah, the idea of like, you know, underprivileged or people who aren't necessarily like you typically associate with having superpowers, getting superpowers. It kind of fits that with what they did with Misfits. But yeah, really good show, really good series. Getz is in it. Getz is a UK rapper. He was superb in it. And yeah, just overall really, really good show. Definitely recommended. It's on Netflix. I'd imagine you'd have it in America as well. It's probably just buried somewhere under British shows or something. That the bit I know Americans watch, I'm sure. British shows, skip past that. But yeah, if you go into Netflix, it should be there because it's a Netflix show, so they just put it all over the place. But yeah, it's worth watching. It's not that long either. It's only like 6 episodes and about an hour each, like 50 minutes to an hour each. But yeah, really good show. Definitely worth watching, especially if you watched Top Boy, you enjoyed that. I think you'd enjoy this as well. But yeah, very different from Top Boy, and like I say, it's its own thing. But yeah, that's been pretty much me and my geekiness in the past little bit. I reckon, yeah, maybe we start talking about some people getting fired. It's not funny. Yeah. It's not funny. I'm laughing, but it's not funny. So yeah, the game industry has seen a lot of people getting laid off in the past year-ish, maybe a little bit less than a year. And like I say, layoffs aren't strictly speaking new. Of course, people have been laid off loads of times before, but just in the past bit, there's been loads. Like, in fact, let me just read out a few real quick, so we could be up to date. So there was more recently, Bundy laid off about 220 employees. Back in February, Sony laid off around 900 employees. Epic Games laid off about 830 employees back in September 2023. Let's see, Microsoft been the worst. They've laid off probably around 3,000 employees since January. There's about 1,000 jobs cut in January, and another 2,000 cut. 2,000 cut in January, then another 1,000 cut. Just more recent. I can't say the date right now though, but in June. So yeah, about 3,000 people lost their jobs from Microsoft. That's madness. Embracer. Let's see, what's that number gone? 1,387 staff gone. That was from March 2024. So yeah, there's thousands of people in less than a year in the games industry have lost their jobs. That is crazy. That
Yeah.
is crazy. So, Mr. Bundy, why do you think this is happening? And what? No, let's sort of a pretty basic, but yeah, it's been happening a lot. So, why do you think this is happening? And what's your sort of take on this whole thing?
Honestly, it varies from company to company. I
Hmm.
know companies like Microsoft, for example, they're going to do whatever is going to appeal to like stockholders and everything. They even mentioned that in one of the articles. And right now, the stock market is crashing. Like, boy, I looked at my Robinhood, what is it, like earlier today? I mean, earlier this morning, and yeah, my heart sank.
So,
Like,
what's Robin Hood? I know the character,
oh
but is that referring to
no, no,
something
no, no,
else?
no, 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 no. It's an app. So it's a stock market app where you can see
Okay.
your stocks and trade stocks and stuff like that. Um, and I don't have a lot of stocks. I just got, you know, some money heavily invested into a few stocks, like two or three. And one of them that like was soaring like sky high. And I made quite a lot of money on it. But of course, it's not your money until you pull it out. At least that's the way I say it, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Other
Don't spend it until you got it.
yeah.
Until it's
Um,
cleared.
Everything is down right now. Like don't get me wrong, not every single stock, but like so many stocks are down right now. It's just plunging, plunging, plunging.
Hmm.
And as far as why, who knows? But um either way, whatever is gonna save money, right? Stockholders, they usually love that. Shareholders, they love that. Whatever is the right term. Basically, people in what is it, higher up, they love that. They need money to be saved. They need money
Hmm.
to be saved so they can make more money. And sometimes, what these companies are saying, where they're like Epic Games, they were saying something like, "Oh, we haven't really been we've been spending more than we've been earning." And that could be true, but it's kind of hard to believe because um with games like Fortnite and Rocket League and I don't know what else they have, but I know those two. I see so many people on that shit constantly. You got content creators sharing that information, saying, "Hey, use my creator code," all that. It sounds unbelievable that they're not making a lot of money.
Hmm.
I feel like, if anything, that's untrue what they said. Whoever said that, I think it was the CEO or whatever, but I think it was untrue what he said. I think they just wanted to make more money than they were making. And now that they shaved off those heads, they could go ahead and make that difference that they've been looking for.
Hmm.
So they can actually flourish in it. Um, yeah, for other people, it's about like the smaller game companies like um Gearbox, right? I feel like the issue is just the games underperforming, not putting so much, not putting enough into it as far as like promotion. Because if it's a good game, you got to get it out there. You got to go ahead and find the right marketing. I feel like there are a lot of people involved in making games that don't play them, and that's the
Hmm.
problem. If you have people who are in the know, then they could go ahead and navigate. I saw a game company recently that got acquired by um, Epic Games, and that was part of Harmonix. Harmonix have been known to make the rhythm games like Rock
Yeah.
Band and stuff
Yeah.
like that. They made this game called Fuser back in 2021, I believe.
Yeah.
Um, so it was around that time, 2020 or 2021. They made Fuser, and Fuser was a unique game. It was a game where you could pretty much DJ. They give you some tracks. Each track had the stems. So that means like you could separate the vocals, the lead, the bass, and the drums, right? And you could tweak those things. You could speed up the tempo, lower the tempo, raise the pitch, lower the pitch, choose which key the each stem is in, or rather the each track is in. You could choose the stem, the key for it. So you had a lot of control over making remixes, making mixes, and everything. For people who are really good at it, you can actually fucking DJ. And if you did it correctly, yeah, you could fucking use that instead of using like, you know, something more complicated. Now, I'm not saying that the sound will be as good, of course not. But the fact that you could do that with a game, this is the bare bones of it, it led to so much potential, right? But um they had a failure of how to promote it, how to get it out there, how to get people to spend more money on it. They tried all these different tactics, but it was tactics decided by somebody that doesn't play fucking games because they made so many stupid choices. Hey, let's make the DLC more expensive. Hey, let's force the DLC to be in packs instead of letting people choose which song individually that they want. So many dumb ass decisions. And again, if you had people in the know, then maybe you could have stayed afloat longer. I'm not saying you would have still been alive today, but shit, any length or any extra day or month that you could have a job is great.
Mm.
Anyway, Epic Games bought them out. Fuser died, and then they took elements from Fuser and Rock Band and threw them into Fortnite. So that's been good. I already spoke to you about that before. My main point about all this is we're in a new age where you can't just keep doing the same old shit.
Mm.
You know, you got content creators, use them, and don't just grab any content creator. Do your research. It doesn't take long. People got kids, right? They're working in these fucking companies. Speak to your kids. Find out which content creator sells to you. Where are they selling to you? Why does this work for you? You know, what makes you buy that? Speak to your kids. If anything, if you can't get research from valuable people, right? Doing little surveys and shit, if you can't get real answers from that, then speak to your kids. At least that's a close source. Have your kids speak to their friends. Whatever. Get you know, because here's the thing. Going back to Fuser real quick, when they promoted that game, they grabbed Dashi. Dashi is a
Oh yeah,
YouTuber.
yeah. Oh, that shit. Yeah.
Yeah, but Dashi doesn't play rhythm games. Dashi's community is focused on Nintendo games, and Geometry Dash, and maybe some horror games. Right? When he steps out of bounds, especially for a sponsorship, they're gonna watch, but they're not gonna go ahead and buy that game because they know that he doesn't really enjoy that game. So now
Mm.
you grab Dashi, you gave him all this money, and I'm glad that he made the money, but you gave him all this money when you could have just grabbed a different content creator that is actually in the know of that could actually enjoy the game, that knows how to translate it better to his community, and
Mm.
maybe actually get them into buying it, and maybe do a reoccurring sponsorship. The
Yeah.
simple little
Yeah.
thoughts like that could go a long way. So yeah, you know, but people want to dismiss, a nobody like me, for example, because they're like, well, you're not in the company. If you know so good, then you would have a job in that shit already, blah blah. Listen, it's not easy to get in that industry, and if it is, please tell me, because
Well,
I'm
definitely
quite
not
sure
now.
I'll be doing. Yeah,
There's not too
I'm
many
quite
jobs
sure.
available right now, so
So I would definitely be in that shit and doing good, because there's no way that you can't, that these motherfuckers didn't even think to do that, other than the fact that they're not in the know. They don't know any better. Again, one thing I've said multiple times, and I'll say it to the day I die: people that make games don't play games. I don't care what anyone says. These motherfuckers, like, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying every single game maker does not play games. You've seen shit like Baldur's Gate 3. Those motherfuckers play their games. And that shit turned out amazing.
So you talk about like not having time to play games because they're making games, or you mean like they just don't play
They
games?
don't. They just don't. Because there's so many times where I'm playing a game and I'm like, why is this happening? For example, like First Descendant just came out. First Descendant is a free to play game, PvE, and there's like this incredible grind. Now, of course, you have to have grind, you have to earn money when it comes free to play games. What they do is they have a loot system, and the loot system, the percentages were severely low that you could be playing for like 20 some hours trying to get one item, and you would not get it. Right? I've seen people do it. Um, or you could spend money and just say skip the whole grind.
Mm,
Here's the thing: you have to have some fairness into it, because you
yeah.
get you the whole point is like, if you do too much, you're gonna scare away your fan base. And that's what they were starting to do, to the point where they had to go ahead and change the percentages. So
Mm.
now they changed the percentages. I haven't heard the feedback of that yet. I don't really play the game like that. I never got, like, I'm not even into it to where I know what items to grind for. So yeah, I don't have to worry personally about it. But um now they had to go ahead and change those percentages. If they were playing their own game, they would have seen that ahead of time, not have to wait for feedback for people to say, hey, what the fuck? What's going on with the percentages? They would have seen that firsthand and adjusted themselves before that blowback. And that looks better on them if they had did it that way. But instead, they had to wait for the huge feedback and everything and then change it, because they do not play their games.
Mm. Yeah, no, for sure. I think the notion of people working in the game industry who don't actually play games is probably true. I mean, of course, isn't. I don't want to say definitely, because I'm not interviewing all these every single one in the game industry, but I imagine, especially when you look at the more corporate side of things, you probably do have a lot of people who aren't gamers themselves and more corporates, and to me, that's not strictly speaking a problem, as long as they can understand, because I feel like you could always offer something to an industry even if you're not necessarily, like, if your background is, I don't know, accounting, you can still offer something to the game industry. If your background is, I don't know, carpentry, you could offer something. But when you're making decisions on things that you don't have an expertise or even a full understanding on, that's where I feel like it could become a problem. And that's what I guess is probably happening in a lot of these cases, which has led to layoffs, because you have executives who, maybe don't understand the gaming culture as much. They understand money, they understand finances, they understand their stockholders, they understand all that, but they don't
Mm.
understand this. They don't necessarily understand gaming culture, and there's the ones making the decisions. And my guess is that's what's probably happening in a lot of these cases. So they're making these decisions that affect the people who have to act on those decisions, and in the end, they're the ones getting laid off. The people who work, the workers, the staff, not the bosses, not the executives. They get to keep their jobs. But I think the whole mismanagement thing, at least as far as I can tell from reading some of these articles, and I know it's been kind of said before as well, especially with the more recent Bungie one, my guess is that a lot of these have some kind of mismanagement somewhere, and maybe not in an egregious way, in terms of somebody who was out there that just didn't care and did it. It could be just you made a bad choice and it was unfortunate. You thought you were doing the right thing, and unfortunately it didn't turn out so well. That could be happening as well. But in the
Mhm.
Bungie one, is the most recent one. Yeah, from what people are saying, at least about that, it just seems like the guy in charge. I forget his name right now. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Here we go, Pete Parsons. Here we go. Yeah, a lot of people saying some bad stuff about this dude. That he wasn't very good with staff. He was kind of like, he lied to people's faces. What some of the tweets about have come out. So that, to me, at least from the outside looking in, seems like a pretty clear case of, or going by what's been said, of
Yeah.
blatant mismanagement. But he gets to keep his job. And in all these cases, the CEOs get to keep their job. And that's wild. That is absolutely wild that you could be making poor choices or any choice that results in people losing their jobs. There's clearly something's gone wrong. And if you're the one in charge, how are you keeping your job? At this point, it should be like, well, you've clearly made some crappy choices. We need to replace you.
Yeah.
But it's everyone else that's affected by it. But yeah, I feel like whether it's people who don't play games, they don't understand gaming culture, or whether it's people who don't care, maybe some combination of that and the other. But I imagine, at least from what I can tell, cases of mismanagement. You look at Microsoft, who are some of the worst ones, clearly, with over like 3,000 people losing their jobs. And one in particular where they closed down a studio that made Hi-Fi Rush. Now, I've not played Hi-Fi Rush, but from people who have played it, people seem to love that game when it came out. Tango Gameworks, the developer that made it. And it just shut them down, even though it seemed like that game was doing well, by your typical measures of metrics of success. It seemed like it is doing well. It's people are playing it, people are enjoying it. It seemed like they had a pretty good hit on their hands, and then they closed down the studio. And it's like, okay, and it just makes absolutely no sense at all. Like, why would you do that? And especially like, I've read somewhere it's like it was their first Japanese studio under Microsoft, and I believe they've been trying to get a Japanese studio for a long time. They finally get one, and they close it down after it has a hit game. It's like it makes no sense at all. So like, whatever metrics of success they're going by, it's not in line with how gamers are viewing a metric. Because we look at success as, okay, it was a great game, lots of people played it, that's successful. That's what we're thinking. But whatever they're looking at, it's like, whether it only made £9 billion instead of 9.1 billion, it's just not enough. I don't know, but that's what it seems like, right? They have that whatever they're using as their metric of success is just not in line with what we're seeing as a successful game. So yeah, that was a madness when they shut that down. And I say, but what, 3,000 people? Clearly, there's something wrong with the management if you're having to fire 3,000 people, if you're having to lay off 3,000 people. That's not a small number, So
Yeah.
or any of these companies, like nearly 1,000, like 800, 900. Like, there's clearly something wrong with management. Now, we could speculate what that could be, and we're going to, because a lot of these official statements they put out, let's be honest, they're not telling us what's really going on, but what it seems like, as an outsider looking in, what's going on, at least in some part, is that overspending on stupid stuff, like you said about promotions and maybe just advertising in the wrong places, assuming that, okay, we've got a hit, we're just gonna like go wild on it, and spend dumb money on something, or just like mismanaging the money. That's what it seems like is happening.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, okay, if that's the case, or even if that's not the case, even if it's something else, it should not be the people getting fired for that. It should not be the staff getting fired for that. It's a time we have to look at, okay, we have bad management, and if we keep our bad management, they're going to keep making bad decisions. It to me, it's so ridiculous that you'll keep the root of the problem, even if it means, okay, you have to let go of the stuff because of that poor choice, but the guy or the people, the persons who are making decisions need to go as well. You know what I mean? It needs to be going as well, because there's clearly something wrong on a corporate level where you have thousands of people all of a sudden out of a job, being hired on projects that are not sustainable. I know there was a while ago in the industry, it's just not my headset, it's my bad. A while ago, I think maybe a few years back in the industry, where it was common for game studios to not actually hire people on a permanent basis as employees, but hire them on a contract basis. And that was kind of frowned upon by when people were hearing about it, oh, they should be hiring them, they should be hiring them. To be honest, I kind of felt like that's probably a better option, because at least you know that you're only there for 6 months or whatever it is. If you're there on a contract basis, at least you know, okay, my contract's for 1 year, and then when your year's approaching, start looking for other work. You know that. Rather than getting employed, thinking everything's going well, we just made a great game, it's doing excellent, people loving it, people are playing it. Oh yeah, you don't have a job no more because we felt like it. You know what I mean? Bad decisions made somewhere, now you don't have a job. So to me, I feel like going back to hiring people on a contract basis, if this is, it makes better sense than hiring people on a permanent basis just to fire them a year later or whatever it is. That to me makes more sense. I know a lot of people, because like, one of the other things I see come up in this whole discussion as well is the demand of gamers, and we got to take some responsibility for it as well. Not me, because I don't play these stupid. It's you people, you. No, I'm joking, but for real though, like we do have to take some kind of responsibility, because there is a big demand. That we do have a big demand of games. We want like the latest graphics. We want the smoothest frame rates, the fastest and smoothest frame rates. We want these big epic adventures. We want this. We want that. We can't accept a game that's less than 40. You know what I mean? We have big demands on these games, and because that games are costing more and more and more to make. Especially when you go into the AAA market, it's costing more and more and more to make. And yeah, you could be spending 100 million, 200 million on the game. Hardly anybody plays it. That could happen, So yeah, I feel like we do have to look at ourselves and be like, okay, maybe our demands are too much of what the game industry could sustain right now. And for me, I feel like one of the things that companies can do to, I don't know if it would solve the problem, but hopefully, I think it can at least mitigate the problem, is to purposefully just not focus so much on the big AAA markets. If you look at Nintendo have been pretty much clean as a whistle. I mean, don't get me wrong, like, clean as a whistle. They've had some bad press here and there, but as far as like employees and getting fired, you don't hear about it from Nintendo. Matter of fact, you hear the opposite from Nintendo, like when Satoru Iwata was in charge and where they had problems, and he was like, just cut my pay down. We're not going to fire people. We're going to just cut my pay down and keep the employees. So it's pretty much the opposite. And they haven't been heavily involved in that game race for a long time. So perhaps there's something in there that I think other companies like Caesar start looking at, start taking notes from, rather than focusing so much on always giving the latest and greatest. Maybe be like, okay, let's do one AAA game a year, right? Like one AAA game a year. And the rest of your money, you can invest into smaller games, and you can still promote them, you can still give them, not crap games, of course, but just smaller games that don't cost so much to make, games that don't require massive teams. In fact, if you look on Steam, you can find plenty of people making these small indie games. Like maybe have a department or like, like a scout, like a talent scout, somebody who looks into the world of independent games and finds people making great stuff, gives them a little bit of money on a contract, says, okay, well, here's a bit of money to make a game. We could promote it for this amount, and that's okay. You might not make the billions and billions, but you still, ideally or hopefully at least, you're making enough money to have that sustainable thing, rather than investing all your money or majority of your money or whatever they're doing, or a significant amount of money into these big AAA projects. They don't do well, and now you're having to cut down staff in other areas because you can't afford them no more. And it's madness that Microsoft, of all companies, are doing that. It's actually mad. Microsoft, one of the biggest companies in the world, that's mad. But yeah, I feel like there's clearly mismanagement. What exactly that mismanagement is, I don't know. I mean, I'm not buying a lot of what's being said in these statements, but there's clearly mismanagement to my mind. Money mismanagement, time mismanagement, gaming mismanagement, resources mismanagement, a lot of mismanagement in different across all these companies. And yeah, like the people making those decisions need to be the ones to go, or certainly at least lose that position. If not fire them, lose that position, because that's the root cause of it. Like, I feel like even as an amateur outsider looking in, it's so clear that is the root cause. People making bad decisions and those people keeping their jobs and potentially making more bad decisions, you know. So
Yeah.
yeah, there is a big demand from gamers. I ain't gonna deny that. And that plays a part of it. Games are costing more to make, and that all plays a part of it. But yeah, you gotta get rid of these people who make these crappy decisions. Because if you can't see that there's a problem in investing so much money into an area that is so saturated, so competitive, and doesn't always yields the returns of a Fortnite or a whatever, you know what I mean, of a, I'm trying to think of a popular game, World of Warcraft. Not every game blows up like that. Not every game is going to be as financially successful as a Call of Duty. Not everything is going to do those numbers. Call of Duty doesn't always do Call of Duty numbers. So it's like investing so much into this area that's so volatile and just getting more and more and more and more. But you just need somebody to be like, you know what? Let's stop, slow down. I know gamers are demanding this, but how about we slow down a bit, do just one of these or two of these, and then the rest of the time focus on these smaller areas where it's far more sustainable. You can still make money doing that. And even the money that you make from that, you can invest into the areas that maybe are a bit more volatile because you made so much money from those more sustainable areas. So
Yeah.
it to me, I don't want to say the answer is easy because I don't think it is. But at the same time, it's like, like that Will Smith meme. You know what I mean? Like that. But yeah, that's my mini rant. That's my mini rant. I need some water. Where's my water bottle? And here we go. Ooh. Stay hydrated, people. But yeah, the whole thing's just been an absolute mess, and it's so sad to see loads of people just losing their jobs unnecessarily. Where it's like, these are people who've been made promises, and then that promise has just been yanked. And yeah, I'm sure they get severance packages and that whole thing, and maybe they're not completely broke or whatever, but a severance package, no matter how good it is only going to last so long. And in an industry where it seems there's just no jobs available, who knows if that severance package is going to last long enough for the industry to correct itself. So you know what I mean? You might find that all those thousands of people, like maybe 70% of them, maybe, or whatever, some kind of high percentage of them just don't even come back to the game industry. Maybe some of them, and do other things, and that's not a bad thing to do other things. I ain't trying to say that, but at the same time, it's a sad thing when somebody has to give up on their dreams, especially when it wasn't anything they've done to ruin it. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It wasn't anything they've done. It was they did what they were supposed to do. They did everything right. And in the case of Hi-Fi Rush, I mean, like I said, I've not played it myself, but from what I'm reading about, it seems they did something really great.
I mean, I played the game and I thought I was gonna love it. I'm into rhythm games. I love the cell shaded graphics, but honestly, I think it's overhyped. Me personally, I didn't really enjoy it. I had it for free, and I still didn't beat it. And it wasn't even like, oh man, this game is hard, or oh man, this game. No, I just got bored. I beat like the first 2 or 3 bosses, and I was like, all right, I had enough.
Oh, not for everyone, then. Not for everyone.
The voice acting's okay. They had some voices I was like, oh, I know that voice actor, and that was it. I was like, okay, nothing spectacular. It was same old. Like if you're into anime, you're gonna like it because it borrows a lot from that style, like with the characters' reactions and everything like that. You're gonna like that. The music is not even, as far as I noticed, it didn't really stand out to me. It was like, okay, yeah, man, I was bored. I was bored playing that game. So seeing it go belly up, it's like, like I feel for the people involved because they obviously were trying something, and you know, just because you don't hit on the first try doesn't mean you should fail. You should get some other chances. But yeah, Man.
Okay.
Me
Well,
personally.
one person didn't like it. One person didn't like it, but it seems a lot of people did like it, though, from what I'm reading. You know, a lot of
Yeah,
people seem to really, really like that game. Apart from you, of
yeah.
course, but most people like that game. So yeah, like I was saying, like it seems like it was doing well, it was well received, but yeah, they just shut the studio down, and it just makes no sense at all. You know, um, Microsoft though, I feel like, and this is again, this is outside looking it in. You know, it feels to me like Microsoft, they're non-creatives trying to make creative decisions. If you know, does that make sense? Like
Hmm.
Microsoft, they're good at things like services. You know, for example, if you look at, you know, the original Xbox and the way it handled online play at the time, you know, it was actually done very well. You know, like they took what, you know, because Dreamcast came out a little bit before. That was the first console, well, not the first console, but it was the first console to do online in a major way, was the Dreamcast. But then by the time the Xbox came out, it did it in a really good way with the, you know, requiring an Ethernet port, so you got stronger connection. And the whole kind of way they handle things like microtransactions at the time was done really well. So the way they do services for the most part is done pretty good. Or, you know, in terms of how they, or even things like Game Pass, that, you know, that's where I feel like Microsoft excel in providing these kind of services. You know, like whether it's software services or hardware that, you know, links their software services. You know, the operating systems, they of course they're famous for. I know there's a lot of people that don't like Windows. I like Windows, but but I feel like that's where they excel in providing services through software. And when it comes to gaming, you know, I'm sure they've got a few good games. I'm sure I don't think I've played a lot of Microsoft Studio games specifically.
Uh-huh.
I think that they've got like was it like there was a flight simulator that a lot of people seem to love. So I guess they're doing pretty good with that. Um, but yeah, when it comes to like gaming, like to my mind anyway, I feel like that's not where their expertise is. Not to say they mustn't do it. Of course they can do it. Of course they could be involved with it. But it's not necessarily where their expertise is. Where their expertise is providing services, you know. And so things like Game Pass, that's where I feel like Microsoft should focus on. Forget consoles, or at least forget consoles in a major way. Focus on something like Game Pass, provide the service, and let the game makers make the games. You know, let the
Yeah.
game makers make the games. You don't need to be like micromanaging all this and, oh, you didn't make £1 billion in 5 minutes. You know, you don't need to be doing all that. Let the game makers make the games and provide the service. You know, I feel like if they did that, it could do so well. They could do so
Yeah.
well. You know,
Yeah.
but you know, you have all these corporates like, oh yeah, we need to look at the fiscal plans of the financial disc break. That looking at the anus reports and the peepus was the anus and the penis, the annual numbers unification system, and the personal economic numerical
I mean,
identification services. So once you put the
micromanaging
penis
is
in
the
the
death of a
anus,
lot.
put the penis in the anus, so you get a report.
Micromanaging is a big issue when it comes to a lot of things, and not just, you know, here, but anything. Like
Mm,
I've dealt with a supervisor before that likes to micromanage a lot, and you know, the woman's great. You know, they're you know, she's awesome. You know, awesome at her job. Uh, very, very intelligent. But man, micromanaging, you got to let employees do them, right?
mm,
Like basically work. Just let them work. You don't need to stop them because you may as well just do it yourself then at that point.
mm,
Let them do their job. And if they do a mistake, if they do something wrong that you know you can't just accept and not just a personal preference, then fine. And you know, then you go ahead and have an engagement. You have a conversation about it and then see if it gets corrected. If it doesn't get corrected, then you take other steps. But to go ahead and stop somebody, step by step by step, trying to modify the way they do things, you ruin the chance of seeing what they could have done.
Mm.
You know, and that that can't be said for every job, but for jobs where it involves some creativity, you never know what you're gonna get. And I hate seeing opportunities stomped out, possibilities and everything, potential stomped out because they got a boss over their fucking shoulder saying, "No, I don't like that. Stop that." Every step of the way. We see that with movies, for example, um, movies, shows, all of that. It makes no sense to just stop them every step of the way. Let
Mm.
people fucking explore.
Indeed, let the creators create. Let the
Hmm.
let the dreamers of dreams dream. Let the makers make. And of course, well, I understand that there is the monetary side of things. Like, if you invest in $100 million in something and it doesn't make its money back, of course, those are conversations that need to be had about how much you invest in the future. So I understand there is that financial side to things, but for the most part, yeah, just let the creators create.
Yeah.
But I do really feel like, in my opinion, focusing on smaller budget games is the way forward. I think, like, the way the game industry is now, it's so focused on the triple A's. It's so focused on live services. Games where you might get them for free, but you're spending 50, 60, 70 pounds a month on skins or whatever it is. Like,
Yeah.
it's so focused on that, and everybody's trying to be the next big thing. And I think the reality is that there's only going to be so many hits, right? There's only going to be a handful of hits at any one time, because if you're a Fortnite fan, you're probably not going to bother much with Valorant. And if you're a Valorant fan, you're probably not bothering much with Fortnite. Maybe, I'm sure there's some crossover. I'm sure there's people who play both. I ain't saying that, but generally speaking, you're probably going to stick to the one that you like the most, right?
Yeah.
So there's another game that comes out, the Fortnite Killer or whatever, another what you call it, a battle royale comes out, and maybe it's even a better game than Fortnite. It may very well be a technically better game than Fortnite, but by that point, you're so invested in Fortnite. Why would you bother move? So, like, it's. I feel like it's not just, oh, make a better game. There's a lot that goes into what makes one game a hit and another game not a hit. It's not always about whether it's a good game or not. And trying to invest so much into this area that you really don't. I mean, there's no guarantees in anything when it comes down to it. But certainly in an area like this where there's this many gamers, right? You
Yeah.
know, or let's say there's this many potential gamers for a live service game, because a lot of times, I play games, but I generally don't do the live service games. So I'm not, say, in this number of people, right? But say you got this many people who's your potential live service customer, right? A gamer. And already this many people are playing Fortnite, this many people are playing other stuff. I don't know, I'm making that up, but just, you know what I mean? Like, let's say that's what the general said. You got 100% out of 100 people, 8 of them are playing Fortnite, 20 of them are playing other games, right? And you're trying to get into that market. I'm
Yeah.
not saying don't try. Of course you should try. Why not try? Of course. But at the same time, I understand that you're trying to break people away from something. Like, Fortnite's been around for years at this point, and there's people who've been playing it since the beginning, near enough to, or even from the beginning, and they're still playing it now. You're
Yeah.
trying to break into something. You're trying to take people away from something that they're so invested in, and it's not that it can't be done, but you really got to understand that it's a big risk, right? And if the results of that is you're having to lay off people, you're having to fire people because it just didn't work out, or even when it does work out, like, Destiny been doing really well, and they put out an update, was it Final Shape, that apparently did really well, but now they're firing people because of, apparent mismanagement. Apparently, this guy Pete Parsons is I'm baiting out his name right now. Allegedly, let me allegedly. I'm trying to get sued. Allegedly, telling people, lying to people, showing off his cars that he bought, like, what, $2.4 million on cars, on vintage vehicles, you know, to be honest, it doesn't say whether that's his personal money or whether that's company money. It doesn't really say in the article here. But assume if it's his personal money, then look, hey, have at it. Do what you want. If it's your own personal money, enjoy your cars. You know what I mean? It is what it is.
Yeah.
If you can afford it, go for it. If you want it, you can afford it. I ain't got a problem with that. If he's spending company money on those cars, and now that money can't be used for other things that it should be used with, then there's a problem. But yeah, some of the tweets I've been going about this guy just haven't been too favorable. So like, going by that, allegedly mismanagement. But yeah, it's just ridiculous. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Like, you have something that's doing well. People put their time and efforts and energies into making something. It comes out, people are enjoying it, people are buying it, and then you're still having to fire people. It's ridiculous. Like, it just makes no sense at all. So where is this money coming from or not coming from if you have a hit and you're still firing people?
Yeah.
You've either spent way too much money on this thing, and even though it was a hit, it just didn't make enough money back. That if you either that, which is unfortunate, it could happen. That's not necessarily mismanagement specifically, unless you're doing it all the time. unless you're doing it every single time. Oh, we spent 100 million, we made 50 million. Let's spend another 100 million. Yeah. Then there's a problem. If you did it once and it didn't make the money back, that's unfortunate. It happens. But yeah, it's either that or just somebody is making terrible decisions consistently to the point where you're now having to fire your staff, and it's like, no, fire that guy.
Exactly.
But yeah, no, everything's good. Oh, sorry.
Nah, I was just, going off of what you said. We have too many people. It's like they make decisions. They do not care about the staff really, because they're seen as replaceable. These a lot of people are just numbers, and when it comes to companies like this, it's hard to be one of those people that you're going to be the one that like stands out enough to where you can't be replaced. Like, for example, I'm fortunately with my location, right? Not in the company itself, but my location, I am one of those people where well, it's fortunately, but unfortunately, I at the location I'm at, they severely needed somebody that that can do the position that I'm doing right now correctly, right? Or as correctly as I'm doing it. Otherwise, they're not stable. The managers are pretty much going belly up and shit. So they need me there. So that means like I could go ahead and fuck around a little bit. Whereas other people, they'll get, threatened like, hey, if you keep this up, you're out of here. They can't do that with me. But it's a shitty position. So it's like, yeah, I don't know how to. Usually, I compare it to like a movie or a show, but it's still early in the morning. So, well, not early, but early for me. But so I can't do an analogy right now. But in short, I got this shitty position, but I could fuck around a little bit because they need me. So it goes hand in hand. My main point about what you're talking about, though, is not everybody has the opportunity where they can stand out among thousands and thousands and thousands. If you know how to make a game, or rather do some engineer work or something like that, it involves like, okay, working on graphics, working on character design, whatever the case may be, you are replaceable. You are. Unless you have that unique talent or you have certain connections or something in these companies, you're replaceable because there's somebody coming right out of college that knows exactly how to do what you're doing. They just don't have the experience. Then there's somebody else who has the experience, has the knowledge and everything because they just got fired. So your seat is always going to be occupied the moment you get up and you're out.
Oh,
And that's
for
the
sure.
unfortunate part.
Yeah. No, that's true. I think that's true across any industry. Like, no matter what position you're in, most people are replaceable.
Yeah.
and it sucks, but it's true. If you have any job, don't assume you're going to be there forever, because
Mm-hmm.
you might not be. Especially if you work in the games industry, because bruh,
Yeah.
but yeah, that is the reality of a lot of jobs. Like, there's no, I mean, I've said this before. I don't think I've said it on this podcast, but I know I've said this before in general, that there's no such thing as a permanent job, or no, sorry, there's no such thing as job security. It doesn't exist. Like, you could have a job on a permanent contract, and even under good circumstances, as we've been seeing examples of, what we're talking about, even when things are going well, like, your contract could be just taken and ripped up. I'll be like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so it's like that. It could be like that. There's no such thing as job security. Like, I mean, I would say, like, I mean, I know it's not an easy thing to do, but I would like to see a lot of these people who've been laid off start making their own games independently. I get it that it's not easy to do. Like, you might have an idea, or you might even have a bit of money saved up or whatever, but it's not just something that anybody could just do. I get that. But I would personally like to see a lot of these people take their experience and use it in some capacity for their own, in their own way,
Yeah.
because there's still no security when if you're self-employed, then there's still no security. You can still, not make any money for a very, very long time, but at least you have some control over your work and what you do and things like that. So yeah, I would like to see a lot of these people try and go the independent routes, and whether that means making their own game, whether that means, I don't know, start up a YouTube channel, or maybe becoming doing something in journalism, or just taking their experience and using it in a way that could directly benefit them. There's no guarantee it will work. There's no guarantee it will become successful or something or anything like that. In fact, there's a high chance it won't. Let's be honest. It's very likely it won't. Even if it's really good, it still might not. But I would still like to, because I do just on my own kind of feeling, my own kind of belief is that we just need more. The world needs more creatives than corporates.
Yeah.
There's way too many corporates right now. We need more creatives. So taking your experience and taking what you know, taking your skills and doing something creative with it in your own way, I like to see that. Even if it means getting a part-time job or whatever while you do that, that's what I would like to see. But yeah, whether that happens or not, well, who knows? But yeah, there's no guarantees, and that's I think that's one of the biggest takeaways everybody could look at, take from this, is that there just are no guarantees. Whether that's you got a
Mm-hmm.
job, you're employed, you got a contract, there's no guarantees. You got a game that's doing really well, a successful hit, people are loving it, there's no guarantees. Nothing is set in stone. And so yeah, from the corporate level to the staff level, I feel like that's everybody should take heed of that. Nothing is set in stone, and no matter how successful your products are, it could still go tits up. Things could still go wrong. Whether that's you made a mistake somewhere, you made a decision that you thought was going to be great and it turned out not so great, or whether you're just incompetent and you're spending money in the wrong places. It could be that, or a combination of things. Things can go wrong. And yeah, like I was saying before, on our side, like, perhaps gamers just need to kind of temper our expectations a bit. Like, it's, these companies trying to live up to all these things. It's whether it's, yeah, even things like crunch kind of fits into it in some capacity as well. Like, the whole thing about crunch, a lot of times when you hear about crunch, people don't like it. People be like, oh no, that's terrible. Don't do that. Don't do that. But for them to not crunch, they need to spend more time on the game. That means
Yeah.
delays, and if they're delaying, that could be more money spent on in other areas. If they also need to make sure that you got like staff not being worn out and everything else, and all these things that come along with it, that could be more money spent elsewhere. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that's bad for them to do that. Don't do that. Drive your staff crazy. No, of course not. But it's just understanding that when you ask for something, that comes with something else, and that thing that it comes with, the end result is either you're gonna spend more money on the game, which means it's gonna be more expensive to make, a lot. I mean, games are quite expensive to buy now. I believe like brand new games are like what 60, 70 pounds right now. In some cases. But let's keep it real. That's probably cheap. I mean, it's expensive. It's a lot of money, but compared to what games are making, that's probably not really cutting it. you
Mm,
know, on an industry level itself. But even that price is a lot of money for a game. £60,
yeah,
£70. They used to be like, was like 40, £50 some years back. Now they're about £60, £70 in the PlayStation 5 era, But even that's probably not cutting it. Like, I feel like if you're going to sell games at a profitable price, you're probably looking at somewhere around about £100 to £150 at a again, outsider looking in guess. And that's based on, I don't know, going back to like the Neo Geo days, if you remember that, how they were charging for £100. But yeah, no one's going to do that. Hardly anybody's going to be spending £100, £150 in a game.
exactly.
It's not going to happen. Like, I mean, I don't even want to spend £70 in a game. It's too much money for me. That's why I mostly play cheap games now. Like, it's too much money for me. I bailed out of that area a long time ago, and there's probably a lot of people like me that do the same thing. So it's just too expensive. So it's just like, let me just play this cheap indie game that I got for a fiver or something. So yeah, with people like myself, like kind of bailing out of that kind of whole thing, if you're selling games to less and less people, you're probably gonna have to put the price up, but that's not gonna happen. So yeah, you do have to sell more, and then if they're not selling more, they're not making the money. It's cyclical, or everything's cyclical, everything's related. So yeah, I do feel like part of it is gamers tempering expectations, maybe not demanding so much, and understanding that every time you ask for something, there's a cost to it. Everything nothing's free. And I don't necessarily mean just financial cost either. Just like there is a cost to everything, whether it's time, whether it's money, whether it's jobs, whether it's resources, everything costs something. And if whatever it's costing it is not resulting in enough of a return, the unfortunate truth is that something has to go. And I would prefer if it was the people making crappy decisions, but unfortunately, it means, at least it seems in this case, it's people's jobs. So everything costs something.
Hmm.
So yeah, temper expectations. I think that's important. I think companies need to just kind of step back. I think a lot of these big companies as well just need to step back from the AAA market. Not to say abandon it completely, but certainly step back from it. Not try to understand. Not every game is going to be a massive hit. Some games are just going to do okay. You know what I mean? Sometimes a game is just going to do okay. It's not going to do brilliantly. It's not going to set the world on fire. It's not going
Yeah,
to blow people's minds. It's just going to be okay. And that's fine. That's fine. If you have a game that did okay, just adjust your spending accordingly. If it didn't make $1 billion, okay, but it did reasonably fine, adjust your spending accordingly. You know what I mean? Like, that's all you need to do. Adjust your spending accordingly. Maybe don't put 1,000 people to work on a game that's only making £50 a week or £50 a year. You know what I mean? Like, that's a bit of an
hmm,
exaggeration, I know, but adjust your spending accordingly. And I'm guessing, at least it seems, from again outside looking in, it seems that's not happening. It just seems that's not happening. People are investing a lot of money into these areas trying to get these big hits, and not everything is going to be a big hit. Gamers are wanting more and more and more and more and more, which means more and more spending, but maybe not as many people are buying the games, or certainly not enough people buying the games for it to be sustainable. So again, it just comes around this big circle. It comes around this big circle. Like, the industry has just gotten to a point where it is not sustainable at that level. On that AAA level, I don't believe it's sustainable. Certainly not in the way that we'd like it to be. I don't think the AAA market is going away anytime soon. Don't get me wrong. I don't think it's just going to all of a sudden stop. In fact, it shouldn't, to be clear. But yeah, I don't think it's sustainable. And I think if it continues in this way, you know, I mean, I don't know how many more layoffs you can have, because you won't have anybody to make the games at this rate. You'd have one person trying to make a game. It's like, bro, this game ain't coming out to another 50 years. Like this.
yeah,
So yeah, it's just not sustainable. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's more layoffs. I wouldn't be surprised if there's more layoffs. I wouldn't be surprised if there's more and more delays. Like we talked about Grand Theft Auto 6 potentially coming out next year, but I wouldn't be surprised if that gets delayed. You know, just because like yeah, everything costs something. Everything costs something. There's no such thing as a free biscuit.
No, I mean, you know, another thing too, um, is when it comes to like having set schedules, that never really made sense to me. I mean, if anything, I feel like you should have a schedule, and if you miss that mark, fine, you know. But that should just be motivation of like, okay, this is how we got to work. We can't just take our sweet time and whatever. When we're working, we got to work, and that
Mm,
doesn't mean rush through the shit, but getting it done in a reasonable amount of time, but with the highest of quality. Um, and for whatever reason, it's been this focus of we got to get it out as soon as possible. It has to be here on this day. And then when it comes out, it's shit because
mm,
it got all these glitches. It has this missing, that missing. Oh, we had to skip over this content. We had to remove this. We had to remove that. We had to cut this. We had to cut that. All these problems because you needed to rush the product. Whereas,
mm,
whereas you could have just took time to make something better. For example, one game that comes to mind is Hogwarts. I played that game, loved that game, but the ending was like, what the fuck? It's done? That's it? I was like, okay. It felt so incomplete, so inconsistent, and it really just it felt like the game throughout the game you're going in this direction, and it was like, oh man, I can't wait for that moment where it could, it was gonna have a split ending. They do have multiple endings where you can make a choice, but from what I've seen, there's no difference. And I don't think that they intended it for it to be like that. It's just a matter of they didn't have the proper time to really tell the story that they intended, that they wanted to. And that sucks because now that looks poorly on the game, that looks poorly on everybody, like me as a consumer, if I'm not putting too much thought into it, I'm gonna just say, yo, that ending fucking sucked. Like good game, great game. But that ending fucking sucked. It was trash. I did not like Hogwarts ending. I did not hate it, but it was such a letdown because it's like imagine you're on a roller coaster. Roller coaster is going great, up, down, all those screams, and then at the end, it just stops and you fucking get the metal bar rammed into your chest, and somebody just puked on your fucking shoulder and everything, and then they're gonna say, "Hey, do you want to ride again?" No, absolutely not. Go fuck yourself. Now, I'm not saying Hogwarts is like that, but my point is, if an ending is bad, it doesn't matter how great the ride was.
yeah, it's kind of like Toy Story, or well, not Toy Story, but like we were
Well,
saying
going into Toy
with
Story
movies.
4.
Yeah, 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 you got to stick the ending. You got to nail the beginning, nail the middle, nail the end. The ending is so important as well. So important.
Yep.
Like, a crappy ending can ruin it. It really
Yeah.
can. It really
Yep.
can.
It
And a
stops
great
replay
ending can
value.
make it. Sometimes, if you have a if you have an okay product and it ended, but the ending is amazing, that could kind of change your opinion on the whole thing. So the ending is important for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, there was something I was thinking of actually. Kind of just blanked on my mind. My bad. Sorry. Uh, but yeah, it's Oh, but what was I saying? No, maybe it'll come back to me. Oh well, it's all good. It's all good. It might come back to me. It might come back to
Yeah.
me. Um, but yeah, so yeah, I just kind of dropped a few opinions on what I think could be done, and like I say, I don't want to act like it's just that simple because I don't think it is, and maybe everything I suggested is complete nonsense because it just doesn't work with how the business works, and that could very well be true, but I'm not claiming to be no kind of expert. I'm just a guy that mouths off his opinion on the internet for what it's worth. But what do you think could be done in terms of not having so many layoffs or not having the problems that the industry seems to be going through right now? What do you think is a potential solution?
Honestly, um, just it depends because it varies from company to company. If we're talking about Microsoft, that's a whole nother beast. Like, the issue is with them. I think part of it that I didn't even I forgot to mention is the fact that like Microsoft is kind of um they kind of gave in and said, all right, you know what, our games, ain't really hitting like the whole Xbox thing. Like they're moving away from making more Xbox consoles, from what I heard, from
Mm,
what I read, that we're not going to get like, so for example, if there's a PS6, the next generation of games, because they're trying, it's fucking insane. I'm not going to rant on it or anything, but they're trying to say that this current gen is already towards his last years, and I don't know what the fuck they mean by that. If they mean a PS6 already in the next couple of years, go fuck yourself. Because it took me a long time to even get a PS5 in the first place, and it's expensive as hell. It shouldn't be that expensive, but whatever. Um, that's all I'll say about that. So anyway, in the next round of generation of games, there won't be another Xbox. That they're just going to settle on this and then just focus on continuing the Game Pass for as long as possible. I feel like the Game Pass is genius. I've talked about it multiple times. But the Xbox itself, it's kind of, if anything, Microsoft needs to transition to um keep the Game Pass active and everything, but focus on keeping the last console they have active for as long as possible without draining too much money, and then also transition to PC gaming. Because, for example, Windows and Microsoft, they're buddies and buddies, probably the same thing, if I'm not mistaken or something. But my main point is, if I plug in my PS5 controller to my PC to play a PC game, there's going to be connectivity issues sometimes. It's like I'm doing something that shouldn't be done.
wait,
It's
if you
not
plug in your what
impossible
controller,
to
sorry?
my PS5 controller to my PC.
Okay, that should work actually, I believe. It should work with no
It
issues.
it works, but at the same time, there's some connectivity issues sometimes.
Okay.
For example, like emulators, or as soon as you plug in your PS5 controller, because it has that mic in it. If I were to plug it in right now, automatically my mic will go, my PC will freak out and say, "Oh, is that a new microphone that you just plugged in?" If I
Okay.
want to go ahead and
Yeah,
try to
yeah.
use it as a Bluetooth, that's an issue sometimes too. I have yet to be able to connect it via Bluetooth with my PS5. My PS4 controller, I could do that. Um, Now my Xbox controller, never had a problem connecting it to the PC. It's fast, easy, simple, straightforward. I don't have to do any extra steps. I don't have to use a secondary app, none of that. Um, so the integration or transition from Microsoft to PC is almost seamless. However, now you got to worry about the people who don't have a PC that can run games like that. And as games are getting more advanced, you gotta have people fucking around with Nintendo style graphics, you know, playing on PC or trying to play PC. Um, so again, going back to the original question, what can Microsoft do, or rather, me talking about what Microsoft could do, right? Because that's, again, like I said, their set of problems is different from other
Mhm.
people. Other people is more, easier to tackle their problems. But Microsoft, in short, they need to just focus on keeping the Xbox One or Series, whatever the fuck, the last one, latest one, alive as long as possible. Focus on PC gaming and Game Pass. That's it.
Mm.
Done. Now, other gaming companies, what they need to do is focused on quality more than quantity, quality over anything else, quality, because the each time you release a great game, people are going to talk about it. use different ways of promoting your game. Stop spending so much fucking money on, again, the big, these commercials, because people are not watching commercials anymore, really. Believe it or not, there are so many people who are blocking themselves out of commercials. For example, on YouTube is trying to fight their way to find a way to get through ad blockers, because too many people are using ad blockers. In fact, if you don't have an ad blocker, you're looked at like, you're old at this point,
I don't have an
because
ad blocker.
well, you gotta get with the times, man. Because you gotta think about it. That's even why YouTubers have been paid now by sponsors to just do an ad break in their own fucking video, because a majority of people, or too many people, are using ad block. And the reason why a lot of people are using ad block is because we have short attention spans. We don't want to be fucking watching ads. And then now we got to add in the fucking ad break. I mean, the video itself, for example, like New Rock Stars. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they do like videos about breakdowns on certain shows, movies, media in general, when it comes to like Marvel, Star Wars, or Disney, or whatever the case may be. They're amazing. With that said, they'll have in their video out of nowhere, oh, my arm itches a lot sometimes when I'm trying to go ahead and edit videos. So I started using it,
Yeah.
and then before,
Sponsored.
if I don't have ad block on, I gotta see an ad before that about some shit that I don't care about. Is repetitive, is annoying, is interrupting. And then not only that, the ads are fucking like, if you don't have ad block on, they never fix things to make it less convenient, less annoying. They make, if you're watching on your phone, a fucking ad will be brighter, like the some, I don't know how they do it, but if I have my brightness low, the fucking ad will be bright. I don't know how it does it, but the ad will be bright, and then of course it's louder than the video itself, so it's blasting in your fucking ears. And the whole point is to grab your attention. You're being fucking annoying. It's not working. And again, it's outdated people making those decisions. So with that said, there's a fight back for people just being like, I'm not going to watch fucking ads. I forgot how I started talking about ads.
Yeah, I was just waiting for your point. I was like, so I get it, I hear you, but where's this going?
I was trying to fight my way back, but I forgot. I really fucking hate ads.
All right, cool. That was a point. You just hate ads. Sorry. You know what though? I mean, real quick then, off a little bit off topic. Since ads got brought up, but yeah. So I don't use ad blockers. I'd rather not. I mean, to me, I kind of see it as a necessary evil when it comes to ads. I don't necessarily enjoy them. Well, most ads, of course, every now and then you might see an ad for something you're actually interested in, but for the most part, like you say, it's stuff that you don't care about. So I don't particularly like them, but I do see it as kind of one of these things where it's like, if I mean, YouTube exists because it supplies ads to people. There's people who are paying them to advertise their products on their on their videos. If they didn't do that, the service still needs to be paid for. The staff needs to be paid. We talked about sustainability. Like, they need to do something to pay for everything that they do. And they do that through ads, or if you've got the YouTube Premium program, you can use that. So, like, I mean, I've had YouTube Premium in the past, and I might get it again at some point. I cancelled it for a little while just because I had some other stuff coming up. But so yeah, at the moment, yeah, I'm seeing those ads, and yeah, they can be annoying, especially when you have YouTubers who have like a 10-minute video and decide to like put like 5-6 ad breaks in and it's just, dude, you don't need to put that many. Come on, like it gets a bit annoying. And I know you could skip them after like 5 seconds, or whatever, but it's still annoying that they do that. So yeah, no, I hear you. Like, ads can be annoying, but at the same time, it's a necessary evil. Maybe not that many, but it's a necessary evil in the sense that YouTube have to pay for all this, and they do that by selling advertising space. And if all the ads are blocked, or if everybody has an ad blocker or nobody does the YouTube Premium, then advertisers stop advertising on it, and YouTube goes belly up. So it's something. Everything costs something. Everything costs
Man,
something.
listen, if you want to be that hero, that's all power to you. But I see it like this: Wikipedia has been asking for money for the past decade. Every time when I go to Wikipedia, they'll be asking for $2.75, right? Just like they're my old friend from high school. Ain't happening, and I have yet to see Wikipedia disappear. So I feel like
You've never
somewhere,
donated to Wikipedia.
huh?
You should donate to Wikipedia.
Yeah,
If you
they
use it, you
ask
should
for.
donate to it.
Oh, I don't know, but they've
Oh,
been asking for
mate,
money for they've been
you
asking
should.
for money for the longest, and they still haven't gone. They
Yeah,
would
because
say
I,
all
I
this
donate to
crazy.
them. That's why they're still there.
Hey, listen,
I mean, I,
my
I, I mean, in fairness, I probably don't donate as much as I might should, but yeah, I'll kick them a few bucks every now and then. I'm sure there's
well
plenty
then
of
by
other
all
people who are sending them some
listen,
money
but
as well. So you might be the one cheapskate. I thought I was a cheapskate, dude. Come on, it's Wikipedia. So how about
nobody that I
Wikipedia?
know, nobody that I know other than you has given money to Wikipedia, and they've been asking for money for the past decade, and somehow they're still around. No matter how sad, how severe, and how sad their story's been, each and every single time, they've been saying, "Oh man, my kids they can't eat tonight. My kids are starving. I need just 275, just 275 or $20 would be great." But 275 just to get me through the day, man. Please just donate. You come here and you read these things. Please, just 275. Nope, nope.
Yeah,
And you
no,
said that 5 years ago, and you still around.
yeah,
Listen,
no, I donate to Wikipedia. I mean, like I said, maybe not as much as I should, but I do donate to them from time to time because I feel
well,
like they do provide a good service, and they are ad free. So they're trying to keep it ad free. And to be honest, I wouldn't mind if they did show ads. It wouldn't bother me that much. But I appreciate what they tried to do. So yeah, I'll kick them a few bucks every now and then. I'm sure there's other people who donate in way more than a few bucks as well. So yeah, they're still around, and they probably don't have. I'm assuming anyway. They probably don't have like a massive like staff level in terms of like because I think a lot of it is volunteer work as well. So they probably don't have like a massive staff in terms of people who need to be paid, and so a lot of it is just server upkeep and stuff like that. So like you probably won't hear about Wikipedia having to shut down, at least not, hopefully not for a long time, if ever, or having to lay off staff like the industry's doing. That's how we brought it back, by the way. Because yeah, they need money, and there's people like myself who donate. I'm sure there's people who donate a lot of money to them. I ain't a rich man, so I'll just do what I can every now and then. But them, at least what they have, they seem to be managing it in a way that's sustainable, at least on the outside looking in the off, they clearly do still need money. That's why they keep asking. But the money that they have, they seem to be so far using it in a way that keeps the website up. And perhaps that's something that the game industry needs to learn from. To take the money you have and use it in a way that is in line with what you're able to do, rather than trying to make all these big massive swings all the time and they're not that don't always hit. So yeah, the game industry might be able to learn a thing or two from Wikipedia. But here's a question for the people watching or listening, by the way. If anybody watching or listening to this far, let me know if you donate to Wikipedia. That's my question for you guys. Because apparently Sweet Punny doesn't know nobody who donates. And to be honest, I guess I mean, I don't really ask if my friends if they donate or not, but maybe they do, maybe they don't. I don't know. But yeah, so let me know if you've watched this far, if you listened this far. Let me know if you're somebody who's donated, whether once or twice or whatever on a regular basis, maybe, or just every now and then, like myself, to Wikipedia, and then maybe might get an idea of. I mean, might get an idea of how they managed to stay afloat. But yeah, for now, the game industry can learn a thing or two from Wikipedia. Yo, Sweet Bunny, you still there? Because it's
yeah.
Oh, okay. It sounded like it just went dead for a minute. Okay, cool. You're still
No,
there.
no, no,
Awesome,
no.
awesome, awesome. Just silent. I have to put you to shame, man. Like, how you not donate to Wikipedia? They provide a good service.
I mean,
You
listen,
probably use the site way more than I do as well. So let's think about all the information, all the knowledge that you've gotten from Wikipedia. You can't give them $5. Come on,
absolutely not.
the information that the value that you've gotten from Wikipedia over the years easily worth way more than $5. Easily, it's a bargain, bruv. It's a
Hey,
bargain. You could give them $5.
no, oh, absolutely not. I can't. Not with
I,
my
I,
bills.
how about I give you $5 and you give it to them?
Oh, I'm keeping that $5.
Bloody cheapskate! I thought I was a cheapskate, but dude, you might be more of a cheapskate than me. you
Dang,
you
I
might
got
be
to.
you might be taking my cheapskate crown right now.
Got to be.
um, but yeah, actually, speaking of being a cheapskate, though, you just mentioned about bills and stuff. Again, like, yeah, these are things I feel like we all need to look at in terms of like spending.
Mhm.
Because yeah, everything's going up. Bills are going up. Cost of food is going up. Everything goes up, but the wages. Like it's an old thing that people say as a kind of a joke, but it's actually kind of true as well. That pretty much everything goes up, but your wages. When you look at the cost of things, so like it is tight for a lot of people, and I said before, like I don't buy a lot of the newer games because they're just too expensive for me, and it has been like that for a long time. Especially considering that I don't always get a lot of time to play games as much as I like, and I don't know how many people like myself make up that percentage of gamers, but I imagine there's a significant number of people who are looking at it like that or in some similar ways, like. Bro, I got to pay this. I got to pay that. I got to pay this. And now this game comes out. Yeah, it looks great, but £50, oof. Oof, £60, £70. And then you're not even getting a full game. You've got to spend another £20 to get the special edition pack with the extra content. You know what I mean? Like, it's
Yeah,
like,
which they're
bro, come
doing
on.
way too often now.
Yeah. So like I imagine there's a significant number of gamers who are in a similar kind of position where, or like you mentioned, just I remember what I wanted to say actually. You mentioned before about games coming out and they're buggy. There's probably a lot of people as well that are looking at it like, yeah, I want to buy this game. I've got the money to buy this game, but I don't want to buy it now while it's potentially full of bugs and not even working properly. Because we've seen plenty of examples of that. There might be people who are just waiting till the it gets fixed, or until the patches get released, or until they just know that okay, it's a more stable game now and it's actually playable before they spend because again, it's a lot of money to spend on something that you might not get a lot of time to play, and when you do get time to play, it doesn't even work.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money. So there might be a lot of people who are like, yeah, I've got the money, I want to get it, but I want to wait till I know it's actually working first. And that might not be for a few weeks. That could, in some cases, like in Cyberpunk, months. Months. I'll just spat out. So I say it, don't spray it. Months. So yeah, it's probably there's. I imagine there's probably a lot of people like that who's saying like, you know what, yes, but not now. So when you're looking at a game coming out and maybe not doing as well financially as you might hoped, maybe give it more time. Maybe give it more time, because it could be just that sense of I don't want to buy this right now. For a lot of people, I think. So maybe don't judge the game as a failure just because it didn't do a bazillion in the first week. It might be just people saying, I don't want to do this right now. And just once they know that the game's stable and it works and there's no bugs and things like that, then they'll be like, okay, cool. Here's my money. Then I'll buy it. So yeah, I think there's just a lot of factors in terms of game sales, or why games might not be selling as much as they need to be to make the money these companies want it to make, to not have to lay off their staff, whatever arbitrary number that may be. And yeah, I'd hope, I mean, I don't know if they are or not, but I'd hope they're at least giving it some time before you lay off staff members, because if you laid off that many people, it means one of a few things. I mean, it could mean a lot of things, but to my mind comes a few things. You either employed way more people than you actually need, which is bad idea. You've employed way more people than you actually need, or you're gonna need those people once their game sales do pick up. Once people do realize that it is not a buggy mess, or if it's not, or if the game is a buggy mess, you're gonna need those people to fix that buggy mess. You
Yeah,
know, so yeah, there's a lot of different things happening. I don't, I know it's not just one thing that means all. There's lots of areas to this, but I'd hope that these game studios, before they lay off these staffs, are considering the fact that not everybody buys games on release date. Not everybody even buys games in the first week, the first month, even. Sometimes people
exactly.
do wait a little bit, whether it's because they want to know it's working or whether they just want to see other people's opinions on it, because like if you don't have a lot of time to play games, you want to, as much as possible, try and get something that you at least think you'd like, and for that you might want to see other people's opinions first. So you might want to wait a month or two, see what people are saying about it, see what maybe your favorite YouTuber says about it, and they might not play it for a little while. So there's lots of things at play when it comes to gauging sales, and I'd hope they're not just looking at these first sort of weeks, or first maybe a couple of weeks, a bit, oh, it flopped, you know what I mean? Because
Hmm.
that's to me is a terrible way of doing it. It doesn't consider everybody's situation, you know. Not everybody
Yeah.
gets to steal their dad's credit card and just go buy a game, So not everybody gets to do that. So, because I'd hope they consider these situations, and if they are, and they're still firing people, then yeah, that's just. I mean, it's not good anyway, but.
Yeah.
You're just making a bad problem worse.
But yeah, I
Um,
mean, when it
yeah.
comes to like when games just come out, I don't me personally, I don't buy games day one unless I know absolutely, yeah, I need that game. And that's been happening rare these days. Uh like for example, a day one game for me will be was Spider-Man 2. That was a day one for me. Uh Dragon Ball Z Sparking Zero, Tenkaichi 4. That that's day one for me. And yeah, that's any other game. I can't really remember that was a day one for me. Um I would say Marvel Rivals maybe, but I'm not even sure if that's going to be a free to play game or if you have to buy that. Marvel Rivals is just pretty much like Overwatch, but with Marvel characters. They had the closed beta running for the past week. I got to play some, and it's pretty good. It's fun. It could use some improvement, but again, it's a beta, so I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do with it. The little fixes that they make.
Mm, yeah, yeah. No, I think the last day one game I bought that I remember buying was either God of War 2018, or it might have been Death Stranding, whichever came out last, whichever was the newest of those was a day one. I think no God of War. I think I got day two really, but I think Death Stranding I got day one. But yeah, it was one of those games. Whichever was the last game to be released was the last game that I bought. Pretty much on release date. Yeah, 2019 was Death Stranding. So yeah, it would have been the last one. And I didn't even like it. Death Stranding I didn't like. I mean, I liked God of War. That was a great game. In the end, till this day I've only played it once the whole way through. But Death Stranding I did not enjoy at all. I played I think about 7 hours of it or so, 7 8 hours, and I was just so bored the whole time. And a lot of people were like, "Yeah, it gets great, you gotta stick it out." And I'm sure it does. Maybe one day I'll give it another try. But I just don't have the patience for games like that. And so I'm not going to say it's a rubbish game because I didn't complete it. But from what I played of it, it just was not interesting for me to stick it all the way through. After about 6 7 hours, I was so bored. I was like, bro, why is literally nothing happening? I'm just running around. I'm talking to all these people. Nothing's happening. And by the time eventually something does happen, it's like, I don't know, some kind of swamp thing that I was trying to fight, but I couldn't fight him because I didn't have whatever I needed to fight. And I just decided to run away. It's like, okay, what was the point of this? And I don't know. Maybe I went the wrong direction. I don't know. Maybe there's something that I missed. I don't know. But yeah, they're making a part two apparently. So I guess enough people liked it for them to consider making a part two. But personally, I was bored. Like I said, I might try it again one day. Maybe if it goes really, really cheap. It's on Steam right now, actually. So I don't have my PlayStation 4 anymore. I actually sell my PlayStation 4. Still got my PlayStation 4 games, but I don't have a PlayStation 4. But yeah, it's on Steam. So maybe one day if it goes like dirt cheap on a Steam sale, I might pick it up and try it again. But yeah, I don't think I'm not in any rush to for that. But yeah, day one games for me are a bit of a myth. Like it's a rare occasion, and right now I don't. I mean, maybe Assassin's Creed Shadows I might consider as a day one. I might, because that looks really sick. That looks real. I know they haven't shown much of it, but it looks sick. And Ubisoft games, I know they could be a bit hit or miss, but I might risk it for Shadows. I just might. You know, Grand Theft Auto 6, when that eventually comes out in 7 years, it's not coming out next year. Trust that. It's not coming out next year. I'd be super surprised if it actually comes out next year. But that could be a day one for me. Actually, no, maybe a day one because it's not coming to PC right away, and I have no intention of getting a PlayStation 6 or an Xbox, whatever series, whatever they're calling it, Series X, S. So I have no intention of getting that. So maybe a PC day one, but not a console day one. But yeah, the games are too expensive for me. I don't get enough time to play them to warrant spending that kind of money on them. And yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one. I don't know how much percentage of people like me make up the gaming market, but I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one. So yeah, it's not that I don't want to. They look great, but boy, their market prices, like, dude.
Yeah.
I've got to choose between that and food. It's like I'm choosing food. I like to eat. I like games, but I like food more. Trust that.
Yeah, even with the new gen consoles, they brought that new price, and they try to justify it, but it's not justifiable. Just they could have kept it at the fucking 60 mark, but they added the $10, and the thing is they could get away with whatever they want until they take it too far, because people are always going to fucking give money. Some people are just like, I don't care, I want that game, take my money. And that's what puts us in, makes the rest of us suffer. Like, for example, if everybody collectively said, I'm not going to, or even a majority of people said, I'm not going to, then they have no choice but to cut back and say, all right, fuck it, here, back to where we were. But the odds of that happening is like, so fucking low. It's not going to happen. People are always going to give money. If Rockstar turned around and said, we are going to charge you a monthly fee to play GTA 6 now, on top of you already got a subscription, that's too bad. You got to pay us. It's a subscription to us, just similar to WoW. I think that's how it is with them.
Yeah, it's like £8 a month or something. But yeah, you pay a monthly subscription.
If GTA 6 is like you have to have a subscription to play that game online, people will fucking give in and do it.
Yeah, it actually makes sense for them to do that, though. I think, like, if they did like a monthly subscription, and with that, maybe you get like X amount of shark cards or something, or they'll do something to, of course, make it worthwhile for people to do it. Like maybe get discounts in the hair and monthly stuff like that. I'm sure. Well, I'd assume they'll do something like that anyway. But yeah, it would make sense for them to do a monthly thing. It offer that online, in all honesty, and I mean, I wouldn't do it because I don't play enough online. But there's plenty of people that do, and clearly they made billions on GTA Online through GTA 5. So yeah, it would 100%. If you think like the amount of money they made on GTA 5, a lot of people who play that game are probably spending way more than, say, £7 a month or £8 a month or whatever the subscription might end up being, £5 a month or whatever, right? You're probably spending way more than that. So the idea of spending £5 a month and maybe getting some extra perks and blah 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 for the month, it just makes sense at that point. It makes sense. So yeah.
It makes sense for a company standpoint, but as far as being fair to the people, hell no. You already pay $70 plus tax to go ahead and buy the game. At that
Sure.
point, you own it. You already got to pay a subscription service to go ahead and play online games, and then on top of that, um, if you want to buy extra stuff, then by all means. But it shouldn't be like, for example, Fortnite has it where you could do a subscription, but it's not mandatory to play the game.
Oh, so what you meant a mandatory?
Um,
Okay, so I thought you meant like an optional subscription. Sorry, my bad, my bad.
oh, okay.
Okay,
I meant like mandatory, like you have to pay in order to play online with them.
right,
So
right.
two
Okay,
subscriptions basically. A subscription in order to play, yeah. Um, and even if it was like, okay, you don't need the PlayStation subscription to play online. As long as you have our subscription, you can play online with us. Even that is, I'm against. But if they wanted to do it, they could get away with it, and that's the sad part, because we don't have gamers in a large sense don't have restraint. Everybody's about like, well, I want what I want. If you don't want it, that's on you. Fuck you. I'm
yeah.
paying for it.
It's the Veruca
And as
Salt
long as they're
syndrome.
making
I want
enough
it
money,
now.
as long as they're making enough money, that's it. That's it.
But you know what though, like, I mean, it's where I kind of disagree a little bit. Like I said, I mean, I said before, like, yeah, there's 60, £70, that's too much for me. But in all honesty, like, I'm not sure that that is too much for the games. If you consider like what games are costing to make, like, and that's why that's one of the reasons why I think like perhaps the game industry needs to just like scale back from doing the AAA so much, because like the amount of like the demands that gamers have, the amount of money these games are costing to make, £70 is probably not enough to charge for the games. Like it's probably should be like 100, like I was saying before, but of course at that point nobody's going to do it. So like there's that sweet point between charging as much as you can that people will pay, but they're charging so much that they'll just that nobody actually bothers with it. But the £70 mark, considering what games are costing now, yeah, that's probably too low in and of itself. It's an expensive price. I ain't saying that, and I say it's too much for me, but it's probably too low for the game itself in terms of really trying to make its money back. So yeah, like it is gotten to a point where it's like if you sell a game for £70, and on top of that you still have to sell microtransactions and DLCs, and you still got to do monthly subscriptions, you still got to do all these things to still make your money back because the game's costing so much to make, and there's not enough people buying it to make your money back from the sales of the game. Yeah, it's just gotten to a point where it's like it's clearly not sustainable. It's clearly not sustainable because one, not everybody's going to buy those DLCs. Not everybody's going to buy the microtransactions. People like me, if it's an optional subscription, I'm not going to pay that optional subscription. I might just jump online every so often and leave it there. But yeah, there's clearly a point where it's like, and if it is a mandatory subscription, I just probably just won't bother at all. I mean that's me. Other people I'm sure would. But the point I'm making is that if you have to do all these things because you're not making enough money from your game sales to cover the cost of your games, like the base game sales to cover the cost of your games, something is clearly wrong, because everything else should be just like these optional extras, not these mandatory things that feel forced into games all the time. Or you got to have this and live services, that, and monthly this and buy this and see season pass here, and like everybody gives got season pass now. It's like flipping out, like what? And and you buy season pass, and then you're waiting months for a game by the time for the update. By the time it comes out, you don't even play that game no more. Just kind of like, why the hell did I buy this thing? So like, yeah, the £70 in all honesty is probably too low a price. Having said that, yeah, you probably can't charge more than that and people will still buy it. That's probably at 70 is that point, or presumably that point where people will still buy it even though they're not making enough money, but then you can still sell them other things to try and make that money back. And I'm not against upselling. You know, I've worked in sales before. I know all about upselling. You know, I'm not against it. Upsell as much as you can. I'm not against the idea of having DLC. I'm not against the idea of having microtransactions and things like that you charge for. That's all great. That's all fine. But that should be like, if you go back to the days of, like, you know, back in the, you know, I said I was playing Half-Life back, I was playing Half-Life, you know, back when that was coming out, you had what we called expansion packs, right? Remember that term, expansion packs, right? That's an old term. But these were done, you know, after the game was made, right? After the game was made, and people just thought, okay, so we've made this game. You know, we're kind of working on this. Maybe we might be working on a new game, or maybe it will have a little bit of time in between a new game. You know, just make something that we can do that has an expansion, just kind of extend, and you put it out and maybe sell it for a little bit, and it was fine. But it wasn't like how it is now, where it just seems like, you know, sometimes sometimes they don't even sell you the whole game. Like, you know, like, what was that one that came out some years back? I think it was a Street Fighter or something like that, where they sold you the game at full price, but it didn't come with everything it's supposed to, and then you had to buy. It was a mess, you know. But it seems like that sort of thing is where it's like, you know, it's you're making a space game, and while you're making a space game, like, you're trying to figure out, okay, how can we upsell this? How can we sell more of this? How can we do more of that? Sell, and it's like, dude, can you just make the game? Make it as good as you can make it, and then worry about everything else afterwards. Those days are long gone, and now we're in this area where it seems like it's just not sustainable. Mm-hmm. It's just not sustainable. Demands are too high. Games costing too much. Everybody's trying to make this massive. Everyone's trying to get this next big hit. It's not happening, you know. And now, yeah, jobs are being cut. Studios are being closed down. Is clearly not sustainable. Something needs to, like, take a massive step back and be like, you know what? Let's rethink our whole approach, because this is not working. It's clearly not working. Yeah. Speaking of Microsoft, actually, you mentioned about Microsoft and a Game Pass. A potential of no more console, sorry. But yeah, I feel like that. I mean, it seems to me that they're moving in a direction just from pushing so much into Game Pass, and especially with the top tier Game Pass, where you have, like, the online, was it the streaming cloud play, you know? Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I doubt that. I mean, I personally doubt that would be the next thing they do. Like, I think they probably would still have another console, but I wouldn't be surprised if their next console, you know, either is just as, or maybe even slightly less powerful than the current one, because it doesn't, strictly speaking, needs to be, you know, if they're focusing more on the Game Pass side of things, and especially with, you know, the cloud play, you know, you just need something that can, you might, in fact, I heard, like, Amazon apparently, and Amazon in America apparently were doing an offer where they just sold you, like, their Amazon Fire Stick with an Xbox controller. You know, and a Game Pass subscription. Is like, it makes sense, you know, because the cloud play that they do is pretty good. Like, I've used it a few times, and granted, there's some cases where it didn't work as well as it should, but for the most part, it does work really well, even on, like, a mobile phone, you know, connection, like a 4G mobile phone connection. It works pretty well, you know. I don't think it's at a point where it can fully replace console gaming, especially if you're more competitive. But for average, say, more casual user, it works really well. Like, it's just about as good as playing a game natively. And if you invest into that technology, it could only just get better. So for me, like I said, Microsoft are really good at providing services, and this is one that I feel like they've nailed. That the Game Pass service, especially the cloud play, and focusing on that makes sense for me for Microsoft to do. Where maybe not the next console, but maybe the one after that is literally just a box that you plug into your TV and it streams the games to. That makes sense. It means you're not spending a lot of money on this console war thing type whatever, but you still got games that you can provide to people through this service. And instead of closing down studios and firing people, what they should be doing is investing in these studios. Even if it means cutting back on the investments because maybe there isn't as much money going around, I get that's a part of business. Not every, like I said, not everything's going to be a big hit. So maybe it might mean adjusting how much you invest in each studios and that sort of thing. But it makes sense for me for them to invest into studios. That way, you have much more games available to people to want to say, "Oh, this is a really good." I mean, because it is good value for money, but you need to consistently show that, because for someone like myself, I like if I'm gonna play one game, and that one game might take me months to get through. So if I'm paying, 13, was it like £12 a month? I think it's gone up now actually. So 12, £13 a month. By the time I get through that game, I've probably spent more than what that game is actually worth to buy, you know. So for me to do it, I'd have to have another reason outside of, oh, there's just games on it, For the person who goes through, one major game a month, that £13 is like, yeah, great, easy. That's a bargain, right? Because if you can even spend £60 a month, or you can spend £13 a month, bargain. So what I'm saying is that if they can invest in that, and for myself, I can come back to it, but I would need another reason outside of games, just based on time. So if they could do something that makes it more worthwhile for people who don't have a lot of time to play the games, then you're doing something, then that's even better, right? Because then I could be, oh, maybe I don't have a lot of time to play games, but I'm getting this, and this, or whatever those services may be. So yeah, I feel like that is where Microsoft could excel, because they're really good at providing services. They just need to invest in this service, while adjusting their investments into these studios, so they could always have something, always keep, because not everything's going to be a big hit. Not everything has to be the major big AAA. Some things can be just good, simple, fun games that maybe you only get on Game Pass. Some things could be like that, and that still provides a value to why you want to get invest in this service. Oh, maybe this game isn't, I don't know, Halo, or maybe it's not Gears of War, or Call of Duty. Maybe it's not one of these big games, but it's still a pretty damn good game because it's getting all these good ratings. Lots of people are loving it, and I could only get it on Game Pass. You know what I mean? But that's harder to do when you're firing 3,000 people. You know what I mean? It's harder to do when you're closing down your studios. So yeah. So yeah, it makes sense I feel like it makes sense for Microsoft to focus their efforts on providing Game Pass and withdrawing from the consoles as much. That in my mind makes sense. But for them to do that properly, then yeah, you need to be able to provide value with these services, and I don't think they can do that at the rate they're going, because yeah, you got these big hitters once in a while, but those big hitters are only gonna pull in a few people, and the people, because so they Call of Duty fans, the Halo fans, but even then it's kind of like, is it worth paying £13 a month if you only really want that one game? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why not just buy the game at that point, and it's cheaper for you? Just pay the £60, £70, whatever. If you know you got time to play that game, £70 is a bargain. If you know, right, it's a bargain. I mean, it's I'm just saying. The point I'm making is that if you only play that one game, so it needs to provide value. It needs to provide value for the people who are hardcore gamers, who are just going to buy that one game. What are you getting for your £13 and Call of Duty if that's all you pay? What are you getting for your £13 a month? What's keeping you coming back? Because once you played, if all you get is Call of Duty and that's it, okay, cool. But I could just buy the game, and rather than spending £13 a month over a year, which comes to what, £130, give or take, ish. You're just going to spend that £60-70 once. So what are you providing for people who are just going to play that one game, for them to keep spending that £13 a month? What are you doing for the people who don't always have a lot of time to play games and feel like, well, I'll just get it when it's cheap? What are you doing for, there's a lot of areas that are out there when it comes to gaming. And right now, yes, it's a good service, but it's only a good service for a handful of people, and apparently not enough people because they had to adjust the prices. So again, they need to focus on their service, focus on how they could provide value in their service, and let the game makers make the games. Outside of looking in, I don't know. That's my basic opinion. Maybe I'm sure there's probably more to it than that. I'm sure, but from my perspective, that's how it seems. That's how it seems.
I mean, there's always going to be those different perspectives and everything. Being in the actual company, then you have a better insight. But we can only speak for what we know and for what we see and what makes sense to us.
Indeed. And right now, none of this is making sense. Way too many people getting fired. The only thing that's making sense to me is there's a bunch of CEOs and executives that need to take a massive step down because they're clearly doing something wrong. But even that's not happening, so that don't make no damn sense. You're keeping the people who are making bad decisions and firing the people who's affected by those bad decisions. But hey, I'm sure there's things we're not privy to, so who knows?
Yep.
So with that, I feel like I've said pretty much all I want to say. How do you feel?
Same here.
All right, that might be a good place.
I feel like we cover all bases.
We covered a bit, yeah. All right, that might be a good place to wrap up this podcast then. But yeah, anybody watching and or listening, certainly let us know what you think of all this that's been going on. Let us know if you have any potential solutions as to what the game industry could do, or all that as well. And of course, any other suggestions for the podcast in general, drop in the comments, see what we can do about that as well. But yeah, for now, thank you for watching and or listening. Until whenever, if ever. Peace. And donate some money to Wikipedia. They do good. They provide a good service. Don't kick them a few bucks.